Kunjaya Samana Kahila Lochana Dāsa
Karuna Pahudvijana Niktai Gorachandra
Parama Karuna Bahudvijana Nitai Gaura Chandra
Parama Karuna Pahudvijana Niktai Gorachandra
Parama Karuna Bahudvijana Nitai Gaura Chandra
Abhavatar Sarashiromani Kevala Nandakanda
Sab avatar Sarasiromani Kevala Ananda Kanda
Sabhavatar Sarashiromani Kevala Nandakanda
Sab avatar Sarasiromani Kevala Ananda Kanda
Parama Karuna Pahudvijana Nitai Gorachandra
Parama Karuna Pahurijana
Pahudvijana
Nitai Gaura Chandra
Parama Karuna Pahudvijana Nitai Gorachandra
Parama Karuna Pahurijana Nitai Gaura Chandra
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhujakacharya Stotra Saptashi Shimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhujakacharya Stotra Saptashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai.
Jai.
Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudhi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai.
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga.
Hare Hare Bol.
Translation of the song. The two lords, Nitai Gaura Chandra, are very merciful. They are the essence of all incarnations. The specific significance of these incarnations is that they introduce a process of chanting and dancing that is simply joyful. My dear brother, I request that you just worship Lord Caitanya and Nityananda with firm conviction and faith. If one wants to be Krishna conscious by this process, one has to give up his engagement in sense gratification. One simply has to chant Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, without any motive. Oops. My dear brother, just try and examine this. Within the three worlds, there is no one like Lord Caitanya or Lord Nityananda. Their merciful qualities are so great that upon hearing them, even birds and beasts cry and stones melt. But Lochandas regrets that I am entrapped by sense gratification. Since I have no attraction for the lotus feet of Lord Caitanya and Lord Nityananda, then Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, is punishing me by not allowing me to be attracted by this movement. Jai. Okay. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gora Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you everybody for showing up for hopefully what will be an informative and ecstatic reading of Caitanya Caritamrita. Vishnu Gada Prabhu is away in Gitanagari, I think, for the summer camp. Is that where he is now? So I'm although I can't fill his shoes, I'm here so-called leading the reading. So we'll do that now. We'll start now with Caitanya Caritamrita, Madhya Lila, Chapter 1, Text 145. Do we have our designated Bengali reader?
I don't know. I didn't see.
Not here?
I can read. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I can read.
Lila.
Awesome. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Start, ma.
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Nilambari.
Okay. গুন্ডিচাতে নৃত্যান্তে কইল জল কেলি হেরা পঞ্চমীতে দেখিল লক্ষ্মী দেবীর কেলি
Translation. After dancing in the Gundicha temple, the Lord sported in the water with his devotees. And on Hera Panchami day, they all saw the activities of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. No purport. I didn't prepare very much, but I prepared a little bit. So I wanted to say a little bit about this Hera Panchami. That this, actually the history, well, actually what it is, the idea of this Hera Panchami is that 5 days after the Rath Yatra starts, the Panchami, the 5th day, the idea is that the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, who is the consort of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was feeling neglected and angry because her Lord and his brother and their sister, Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, had gone out. So the goddess of fortune was feeling a little angry. And so there was like some campaign by her in her anger against the Supreme Personality of Godhead for leaving her alone. And that's the rough idea of this festival, Hera Panchami. The roots of this festival are very old. They're even included, descriptions of this pastime are even included in the Puranas. But one interesting thing is that all the way up until the 1400s, this festival was actually only done in the temple by the chanting of mantras and chanting of prayers. There was no, what you would call a public celebration. It was just mantras and prayers in the temple was the sum and substance of this Hera Panchami celebration. Then in about the year 1420, the king of Orissa, who was the first of the what was called the Surya Vamsa line of the Oriyan kings, was Kapilendra Dev was his name. And he was a very big and very powerful and very important king. He conquered lots of land. He really expanded the size of the Oriyan Empire, including different parts of India and extending also to Bengal. And actually, it's because of that, because Bengal was also within the kingdom for that time. That helps explain to some degree the very close relationship between the Aryan state and the Bengal state, and the constant traffic back and forth, the Bengalis going to Orissa and back and forth, and a big exchange of culture and a big exchange of devotional practice between Orissa and Bengal because of that. And besides being a great king, he was also a pious person, a big builder of temples and establishing, supporting brahmanas and making sure saintly persons were protected. Very important person, this Kapilendra Dev. And he instituted this Hera Panchami festival as an actual, like, what we call a festival, not just chanting prayers, but a whole festival with a separate temple for a goddess Durga and I think a solid gold deity, not Durga, I'm sorry, Lakshmi. And he installed a solid gold deity of Lakshmi Devi. And it became a great public festival, a big public celebration as part of the whole Rath Yatra, this Hera Panchami. And of course, because of that, that was in the early 1400s. So by the time Lord Caitanya came in the late 1400s and went to Puri, by then he was able to take part in this big, huge public festival, very glorious festival. So we could thank this Kapilendra Dev king for that. And his son, he had a son who was also the next in the Suryavamsa line of Oriyan kings, who also, actually there was a lot of politics because Kapilendra had two sons. So he made one son king, and then the other son deposed his brother, and then the brother took the kingdom back. So a lot of politics. But that next king was also a very powerful king, a very pious king, developing Oriyan Vaishnav culture very nicely with lots of temples and supporting brahmanas and supporting the composition of books and shastras and explanations of devotional service. And that king, he even wrote some devotional literature in Sanskrit himself. And he's also the one who instituted the regular chanting of Geet Govinda in the Jagannath temple, which is the tradition now to this day, the chanting of that. And then his son was Maharaj Prataparudra, who we'll hear about, and who was king during the time of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And sometimes, because during Maharaj Prataparudra's reign, the Oriyan kingdom shrank a little in size. During the previous two kingdoms, it grew and was maintained to a very large kingdom. Under Prataparudra, it shrank a little bit because he was such a pure devotee that he was not overly, he did his duty as king, but he was not overly concerned about conquering and such things. He was more interested in chanting and devotional service, and specifically serving and associating with Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's the short lineage of these kings. And after Prataparudra Maharaj, that particular lineage of kings died out, didn't continue. There were other political upheavals and fighting with the Muslim rulers and such went on. But that's the importance of those rulers. I don't know if hopefully that was an interesting tangent. So that's the Caitanya Mahaprabhu is celebrating the Hera Panchami. Next text 146, please.
কৃষ্ণ জন্মযাত্রাতে প্রভু কোপাবেশ হইলা, দধি ভার বহি তবে লগর ফিরাইলা।
Translation. On Janmashtami, Lord Krishna's birthday, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu dressed himself as a cowherd boy. At that time, he carried a balance with pots of yogurt and wheeled a rod about. So, of course, what's that? Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahayanya. Mahaprabhu is directly Krishna himself, or also what's the other? Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Ladini Shaktir Asmat. ekatmanavapi bhuvi bhuva pura deha bedam gatoto chaitanyakyam, that the one absolute truth is the manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's pleasure potency. And in Krishna's pastimes, that Supreme Absolute Truth manifest, although it's one, that Supreme Absolute Truth manifests as the two, as Radha and Krishna. Just like Jiva Goswami gives the example, just like a lotus growing in a lake. And there's one lotus plant with a single root, but that one plant sends up two flower stalks, one with a beautiful golden lotus and one with a beautiful bluish lotus. So it's one, but manifesting as two. But then in the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, those two become one again, as Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Nomi Krishna Srupam, he's Krishna himself, but coming with the mood and with the complexion of Radhika. So it's not surprising that Caitanya Mahaprabhu is taking the pastimes of a cowherd boy with Dadi Bara Vahi, that Prabhupada explains Dadi Bara just means carrying yogurt, but he says a balance. So we've seen in India, or not just in India, in many traditional cultures, they do that they have a stick like a yoke that you carry on the shoulder. In China, this is also a common method amongst traditional peoples, a stick across the shoulder, and hanging from each end of the stick is a pot, a heavy pot. So it's a way of carrying heavy pots. So the cowherd boys and the cowherd girls would carry their pots of yogurt and pots of butter and pots of ghee like that, sometimes on their head, sometimes with this shoulder yoke. And also because he's Krishna himself, a cowherd boy, he could take a stick and, wheel it around and spin it and throw it. There's another description of this in the Caitanya Charitamrita, where I think it was Nityananda maybe said to Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who was playing the part of a cowherd boy, and he said to Mahaprabhu, I will only believe that you're a cowherd boy if you could take this cowherding stick and wheel it about. So Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he took it and he wheeled it and he's spinning it so fast, just like you see, I'm not a sports person, so I never watch football or stuff, but I know that cheerleaders, they do that in marching bands. They do that twirling a baton, right? So cowherd boys can do that even more and with a bigger and heavier stick. And Caitanya Mahaprabhu is wheeling it around so fast and throwing it in the air and catching it and tossing it behind his back and doing all these amazing moves. And the verse says it was spinning so fast, it was like a moving firebrand. Like if you have a stick with a fire at the end, you wheel it around really fast. It looks like a circle, right? So the stick was wheeling around so fast like that. So Caitanya Mahaprabhu, as Krishna himself, when necessary, he could certainly exhibit all of those cowherd boy skills. And Nityananda also, when he was a child, he would always play the part of Balaram, or play the part of a cowherd boy, and all of his associates were cowherd boys. So it's always good to be reminded that Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu are Krishna and Balaram themselves, eternal cowherd boys, now appearing in a different form for a related but different purpose. Next text.
গৌড়েরও ভক্তগণে তবে করিল বিদায়, সঙ্গেরও ভক্ত লইয়া করে কীর্তন সদায়।
After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bade farewell to all the devotees from Gaudadesh, Bengal, and continued chanting with his intimate devotees who constantly remained with him. So we're getting now a summary description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's touring of different parts, different places. And if anyone else also has a comment or question or anything they'd like to share or discuss, or an inspiration, feel free to raise your hands or just unmute and go ahead and speak. I don't want to hog the whole thing. Next text, 148.
বৃন্দাবন যাইতে কইল গৌরে রে গমন, প্রতাপ রুদ্র কইল পথে বিবিধ সেবন।
To visit Vrindavan, the Lord went to Godadesh, Bengal. On the way, King Prataparudra performed a variety of services to please the Lord. I always like the descriptions of Prataparudra Maharaj's devotional service, that he was a king and a responsible person and so much, but he was still so devoted to Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And even sometimes his position kept him away a little bit. Just like he and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, they had to watch the kirtan and the pastimes of Caitanya Mahaprabhu at one instance from up on a roof of a building watching, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was explaining, well, there's Caitanya Mahaprabhu, there's this devotee, and naming all the devotees, but he wasn't like in the middle of the kirtan. And then he was begging and pleading to get the darshan of Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu said, oh no, he's a king and I'm a sannyasi. I can't meet with him. But then later on, by the mercy of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, meeting was arranged. So I always really like that about Prataparudra Maharaj's devotional service. Next text.
হরি গোসাই সঙ্গে বস্ত্রদান প্রসঙ্গ, রামানন্দ রায় আইলা ভদ্রক পর্যন্ত।
On the way to Vrindavan via Bengal, there was an incident wherein some cloth was exchanged with Puri Goswami. Sri Ramananda Roy accompanied the Lord as far as the city of Bhadraka. This Puri Goswami, I think that's Paramananda Puri, I think, who was the sannyasi god uncle of Caitanya Mahaprabhu and was a very extremely intimate associate. I remember in these Caitanya Charitamrita readings last year, headed by Vishnu Gadaprabhu, and we were reading the section of the tree of Caitanya Mahaprabhu and how his lineage is like a tree and all the different devotees are different branches. Some of you will remember that. And it's described that Paramananda Puri and 8 other sannyasi, I think they were all god uncles, disciples of Madhavendra Puri, god brothers of Ishwara Puri, who were sannyasis and very intimate associates of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. They were considered like the roots of that tree. They were the firm roots, and especially Paramananda Puri, or Puri Goswami, was the central root of that tree of the lineage of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And they met on Lord Chaitanya's travels somewhere in South India or Central India, I'm not sure where. And they met, and when Caitanya Mahaprabhu found out he was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, he was in such ecstasy, and they spent hours and hours and days just discussing Krishna Katha. And then Caitanya Mahaprabhu begged him, I'm going to Puri, please come and live in Puri with me. It would be so nice if you could be there. And he eventually did that, went to Puri and lived there with Caitanya Mahaprabhu. But I have no idea what this pastime of exchanging cloth was about. And Sri Ramananda Roy also accompanied him for some time as far as the city of Bhadraka. Bhadraka is the old name for what is now Ramuna. Any comment or discussion so far?
Bhadrak is a district. And
a district, you know that place?
yeah.
I read one commentary in Caitanya Bhagavat by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta where he said Bhadraka is now known as Ramuna. So maybe the city of Ramuna is a city or village within that district, perhaps.
Yeah, Ramuna is a small place within that district.
Oh, so you know that place. Okay, so Ramuna is within, and Ramuna we know has some history in Caitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. So thank you for that.
Now at this time, the 2 different stations. Ramuna is Balesar station. Balesar is the station for Ramuna, and Bhadrak is its own station.
Oh, okay. Okay, but they're in the same
Yeah,
general area.
This comes under Balasar. See.
Okay. And those are those within Bengal or within Orissa? Do you know?
It's Orissa.
Orissa.
Orissa, okay. Thank you. Next text, 150.
আসি বিদ্যাবাচস্পতির গৃহেতে রহিলা প্রভুরে দেখিতে লোক সংঘট্ট হইলা
When Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu reached Vidyanagara, Bengal, on the way to Vrindavan, he stopped at the house of Vidya Vachaspati, who was the brother of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu suddenly arrived at his house, great crowds of people gathered. And still no purport. This is also interesting that this Vidya Vachaspati, I don't know exactly at what time in the history, but he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and was a great devotee. And he begged Mahaprabhu, please, you should visit my brother and deliver him, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And the story of Sarvabhauma's deliverance is also another very wonderful incident about, let me put it this way, to convince a dedicated Mayavadi to become a devotee of Krishna is no small thing. That's like the heart of any kind of preaching. That's the hardest preaching goal of all, to turn a dedicated Mayavadi into a Vaishnava. That's a very difficult thing. Compared with it, turning an ordinary sinner or an ordinary materialist into a Vaishnava, comparatively is not that hard. Of course, it's always hard. Prabhupada said we give gallons of blood just to make one person a Vaishnava. But Mayavadis are so contaminated, and especially a learned Mayavadi is so contaminated and so puffed up that to make him into a devotee is a very difficult thing. But Vidya Vachaspati begged Mahaprabhu, please do this. And the way he did it was so, it's actually funny. It's, when he met Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, we all remember that history, how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, oh, this person's a sannyasi, but he's so young and so beautiful, it must be hard for him to maintain his vows. So let me preach Vedanta philosophy to him so he can maintain his vows. And he spoke for long, long time, days, of his version, Mayavadi version of Vedanta philosophy. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said nothing. And then after some days, Sarvabhauma said, I've been preaching to you so much to help you maintain your sannyas vows, but you're not saying anything. Are you understanding Vedanta philosophy? And Mahaprabhu says, oh, Vedanta philosophy I understand very well, but what you're saying I can't understand at all. And so not even very indirectly, directly, really insulting him in a way. And but anyway, it's very sweet and very funny also how he delivered Sarvabhauma. That's another wonderful pastime. Next text.
পঞ্চদিন দেখে লোক নাহিক বিশ্রাম লোক ভয় রাত্রে প্রভু আইলা কুলিয়া গ্রাম
For 5 consecutive days, all the people gathered to see the Lord, and still there was no rest. Out of fear of the crowd, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left at night and went to the town of Kulia, present-day Navadvip. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. If one considers the statements of Chaitanya Bhagavat along with the description by Lochan Das Thakur, it is clear that present-day Navadvip was formerly known as Kulia Gram. While at Kulia Gram, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his favor upon Devananda Pandit and delivered Gopal Chapala and many others who had previously committed offenses at his lotus feet. At that time, to go from Vidyanagara to Kulia Gram one had to cross a branch of the Ganges. All of those old places still exist. Chinadanga was formerly situated in Kuliagram, which is now known as Kolera Ganja. I don't know off the top of my head the history of his bestowing favor upon Devananda Pandit. Is anyone familiar with that pastime or that incident? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Devananda Pandit. I did look up his deliverance of the pastime of the deliverance of Gopal Chapala, and I thought it would be interesting to share a little bit of that pastime. This is described, actually it's described earlier in the Adi Lila, this pastime also, that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there, and we heard in the previous verse, in this verse, so many people came to see the Lord, huge, incredible, amazing crowds came to see the Lord. And he was chanting and engaging everyone in Sankirtan. And he was preaching to the people. He said, just chant the holy name. And he told them, Trinadapi Sinichena Torapi Sihishnana Manina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadari. You just take this verse, Trinadapi Sinichena, and you string this verse on the thread of the holy name and always wear it around your neck and constantly chant. So the whole town, hundreds, thousands, millions of people turned out to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and engage in kirtan, and everyone was in ecstasy. But the ones who were not in ecstasy were the rascals and the envious persons and the atheists. This is from the Adi Lila. Let's see now. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regularly led congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra in the house of Srivas Thakur every night for 1 full year. Thus, the non-believers, the Pashandis, almost burned to ashes and died out of envy. To retaliate, they planned various ways to give trouble to Srivas Thakur. So everyone was happy except for the atheists, the Pashandis. And Pashandi means an irreligious person, an atheist or a rascal. But there was, amongst all of these rascals, there was one who was known as Pashandi Pradhan, the best of the Pashandis, the best of the rascals. Just like what was that Prahlad Maharaj calling his father Hiranyakashipu, Asura Varyam, that best of the demons. So now Caitanya Charitamrita is describing one person as Pashandi Pradhan, the greatest of all the rascals, atheists, non-believers. And that was this Gopal Chapala. And he was so envious that he made a plan that late at night, he got pots of wine and yellow rice and red sandalwood pulp and red flowers, all ingredients for worshiping Durga, pots of wine, and took all of this and put this on the porch of Srivas Thakur's house, thinking, he's claiming to be a Vaishnava. When the people see that, they'll criticize him and reject him because he was so envious. This is the symptom of an envious person, that they want to tear down the other person. So in the morning, Srivas Thakur woke up. He went on his porch. He saw all of these ingredients for the worship of Durga, and he immediately started calling out himself. Normally, if someone tries to frame us, if someone tries to frame me in a crime, I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to say, no, I'm innocent. I didn't do. But Srivas Thakur, he called out, everyone come and see, everyone come and see, all of the great Brahmins of the village, come and see, come and see. And they all came, and he said, just see all these ingredients here for worshiping Durga. Now you know the fact that I'm a nonsense worshiper of Durga. So now you all should know my actual status. So he didn't object. He actually accepted it. And all the people, of course, everyone knew Srivas Thakur, his actual position. So they said, this is terrible. Who's tried to do this to Srivas Thakur? So they arranged for the sweeper to come and throw out all of the nonsense Durga worship ingredients and spread cow dung on it to purify the area again. And so Srivas Thakur was not impugned in any way, but that Gopal Chapala, due to his envy and due to his offense against a pure devotee, he developed leprosy. And his whole body became covered with sores, with bloody, oozing, weeping sores. And worms and bugs were biting him on those sores. And his suffering for so long went on for such a long time. Just Gopal Chapala. Let's see if I could find. Since leprosy is an infectious disease, Gopal Chapala left the village to sit down on the bank of the Ganges underneath a tree. One day, however, he saw Caitanya Mahaprabhu passing by and spoke to him as follows. My dear nephew, I am your maternal uncle in our village relationship. Please see how greatly this attack of leprosy has afflicted me. As an incarnation of God, you are delivering so many fallen souls. I am also a greatly unhappy fallen soul. Kindly deliver me by your mercy. So he's had a little bit of change of heart here, at least realizing that Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. Hearing this, Caitanya Mahaprabhu appeared greatly angry, and in that angry mood, he spoke some words chastising him. O sinful person, envious of pure devotees, I shall not deliver you. Rather, I shall have you bitten by these germs for many millions of years. You have made Srivas Thakur appear to have been worshipping the goddess Bhavani. Simply for this offense, you will have to fall down into hellish life for 10 million births. I have appeared in this incarnation to kill the Pashandis, and after killing them, to preach the cult of devotional service. After saying this, the Lord left to take his bath in the Ganges. And Gopal Chapala didn't die, but continued suffering and suffering. Then later, at another time, this is years later, actually, after Mahaprabhu took sannyas. So for many, very long time, Gopal Chapala was suffering with leprosy and bleeding sores on his body and being bitten by worms and germs. Then finally, it says, the Lord, being merciful to him, gave him instructions for his benefit. Then the Brahmana Gopal Chapala went to Srivas Thakur and took shelter of his lotus feet. And by Srivas Thakur's mercy, he was freed from all sinful reaction. So this is an amazing story of the dangers of Vaishnava aparad and also how to overcome it. If you commit Vaishnava aparad, just taking up devotional service again is not enough. Just saying, I'm sorry is not enough. You have to go to that Vaishnava and you have to fall at the Vaishnava's feet and shedding tears of contrition. You have to beg forgiveness at his lotus feet. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually in his Madhya Kadambini says that you have to fall at his feet and beg. And if somehow or other that Vaishnava does not forgive you, or if he, for example, if that Vaishnava whom you offended passes away without having forgiven you, then you have no choice but to give up everything and simply take up chanting the holy name 24 hours a day. But generally, if there's an offense, we have to beg forgiveness of the person whom we've offended. Very important pastime and instruction. Okay. Text 152.
কুলিয়া গ্রামেতে প্রভুর শুনিয়া আগমন কোটি কোটি লোক আসি কইল দর্শন
Hearing of the Lord's arrival in Kuliagram, many hundreds of thousands of people came to see him. 153.
কুলিয়া গ্রামে কইল দেবানন্দের প্রসাদ গোপাল বিপ্রেরে ক্ষমইল শ্রীবাস পরাধ.
The specific acts performed by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu at this time were his showing of favor to Devananda Pandit and excusing the Brahmana known as Gopal Chapala from the offense he had committed at the lotus feet of Srivas Thakur. Text 154.
পাষণ্ডী নিন্দক আসি পড়িলা চরণে অপরাধ ক্ষমি তারে দিল কৃষ্ণ প্রেমে
Many atheists and blasphemers came and fell at the lotus feet of the Lord, and the Lord in return excused them and gave them love of Krishna. These words are good. Pashandi nindaka. A pashandi means someone who's rejected the Vedic way, an atheist, an irreligious person, someone who rejects devotional service. And nindaka specifically means someone who criticizes the Vaishnava, who performs that particular type of Vaishnava aparad, blaspheming the devotees. Text 155.
বৃন্দাবন যাবেন প্রভু শুনি নৃসিংহানন্দ পথ সাজাইল মনে পাইয়া আনন্দ
When Sri Nrsingananda Brahmachari heard that Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu would go to Vrindavan, he became very pleased and mentally began decorating the way there. This is the start of also a very wonderful description from Krishnadas Kaviraj. Next text, 156.
উলিয়া নগর হইতে পথ রত্নে বাঁধাইল নিপৃন্ত পুষ্প সজ্জা উপরে পাতিল
First, Nrsingananda Brahmachari contemplated a broad road starting from the city of Kulia. He bedecked the road with jewels, upon which he then laid a bed of stemless flowers. Text 157.
পথে দুই দিকে পুষ্প বকুলের শ্রেণী মধ্যে মধ্যে দুই পাশে দিব্য পুষ্করিণী
He mentally decorated both sides of the road with bakula flower trees, and at intervals on both sides he placed lakes of a transcendental nature. This is all mentally, all within his mind. He's, you could say in normal language, we say, you imagine, oh, you close your eyes and within your head, you think, oh, there's a road, there's trees, a lake. So he was constructing this within his mind. Very interesting. Next text.
রত্নবাদা ঘাট তাহে প্রফুল্ল কমল নানা পক্ষী কোলাহল সুধা সমজল
These lakes had bathing places constructed with jewels, and they were filled with blossoming lotus flowers. There were various birds chirping, and the water was exactly like nectar.
শীতল সমীর বহে নানা গন্ধ লইয়া কানাইয়ের নাটশালা পর্যন্ত লইয়া বান্ধিয়া
The entire road was surcharged with many cool breezes, which carried the fragrances from various flowers. He carried the construction of this road as far as Kanai Natashala. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Kanai Natashala is about 200 miles from Calcutta on the loop line of the Eastern Railway. The railway station is named Talajhadi, and after one gets off at that station, he has to go about 2 miles to find Kanai Natashala. I also like these, even though I've never been to any of these places. I don't even know when I'm going back to India or back to Mayapur or back to Bengal. But just the thought that, the railway lines are there. I don't even know if they're the same railways, because I think these purports are mainly drawn from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta's commentary. So these may be old, based on old railway lines. I'm not sure what's extent now, but just hearing this description, bringing it up to a more modern time, that these places are there, these places are real. And if you're willing to not be lazy like I am and get off my butt and go to India and go to these places, you can actually go there and see them. Text 160.
I had a comment there.
Yes, please.
My understanding, yes, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's commentary has derived, but Prabhupada has updated, gave the latest information during his times.
Oh, so those are that's pretty updated information that we could use today?
During Prabhupada's times.
During Prabhupada's time, at least, yeah.
So now things are changing, always the locations,
Sure.
commute and everything changes, but Prabhupada at least was giving relevant to us how we can connect that place now, that
Right.
time.
Yeah, but at least it's some information, and with a little, actually, in one sense, now it's even easier. You just go to Google Maps and you enter. I'm almost tempted to do it now. I'll do it after class. Go and enter Kanai Natashala and see if I could find it on Google Maps. So these places are there and we can go there and find it.
Yes,
That's good to know that Prabhupada did also update the information. Prabhupada was a Bengali man. He knew these places, presumably visited at least some of them. I don't know in detail, but they're there.
Thank you so much, Ācārya Prabhu, for speaking today. I wanted to reflect on your sharing about Harapanchami, the name Harapanchami, which is very, very dear to me, and giving a very detailed explanation of the source of the name and the pastimes. As
go ahead, please.
As Mother Kalini would be very happy, as she trained me on a cow named Harapanchami when I first came to Gitanagari as a cowherd girl. So just hearing that pastime really sparked inspiration in me and gave me more defined aspects of my service and my Guru Maharaj's service. So I really do appreciate that. And I'm kind of sad to see that Vishnu Kada is not speaking today, but you are an amazing substitute. And if that is a word in this context, and I hope to see you again if for some reason he's not available. Thank you for sharing so wonderfully. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, that's very kind of you to say. I'm like a fig compared to Vishnu Gada, but the Caitanya Charitamrita is sweet, and the pastimes are sweet, and the devotees are sweet. So we'll all get through this and limp along until next week when Vishnu Gada Prabhu is back. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for explaining everything. And thanks to Nilanjana Mataji for reading the
yes, reading it very nicely.
Reading it very nicely. She just covered. Other two people used to come and they didn't come today. So thank you very much, Nilanjana.
Okay.
Prabhu has not finished his reading yet.
Should we finish now, or should we continue with Nishringananda Brahmachari's?
Nishringa Brahmachari, please complete. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll continue until there's a natural break in the story. Okay. Okay.
আগে মন নাহি চলে না পারে বান্ধিতে পথ বান্ধা না যায় নৃসিংহা হইল বৃশ্চিতে.
Within the mind of Nishringananda Brahmachari, the road could not be constructed beyond Kanai Natashala. He could not understand why the road's construction could not be completed, and thus he was astonished. So this is also interesting. Usually you think your mind, you could imagine anything. You could imagine you can imagine a unicorn. You can imagine a flying spaghetti monster. You can imagine anything, and there's no limit to what your mind can imagine. So Nishringananda Brahmachari is so-called imagining or creating with his mind this beautiful road with the flowering trees and the scented breezes and the sweet lakes of nectarian water, until he reached a point and his mind could no longer construct it. So why is this? Text 161.
নিশ্চয় করিয়া কহি শুনো ভক্তগণ এবার না যাবেন প্রভু শ্রী বৃন্দাবন
With great assurance, he then told the devotees that Lord Caitanya would not go to Vrindavan at that time. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. And I think this will be our last verse. We'll finish this purport, speak a little bit, take some comments, and wrap it up. Purport. Srila Nrsingananda Brahmachari was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, when he heard that from Kulia, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to Vrindavan, although he had no material wealth, he began to construct within his mind a very attractive path or road for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to traverse. Some of the description of this path is given above, but even mentally, he could not construct the road beyond Kanai Natashala. Therefore, he concluded that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not go to Vrindavan at that time. For a pure devotee, it is the same whether he materially constructs a path or constructs one within his mind. This is because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana, is bhavagrahi, or appreciative of the sentiment. For him, a path made with actual jewels and a path made of mental jewels are the same. Though subtle, mind is also matter. So any path, indeed anything for the service of the Lord, whether in gross matter or in subtle matter, is accepted equally by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord accepts the attitude of his devotee and sees how much he is prepared to serve him. The devotee is at liberty to serve the Lord either in gross matter or in subtle matter. The important point is that the service be in relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 26. Patram pushpam palam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati taraham bhaktu paritam asnami prayatatmana. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. The real ingredient is bhakti, devotion. Pure devotion is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature. Ahaitukya pratiyata. Unconditional devotional service cannot be checked by any material condition. This means that one does not have to be very rich to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the poorest man can equally serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he has pure devotion. If there is no ulterior motive, devotional service cannot be checked by any material condition. What an awesome purport that is, huh? Not sometimes, if a material person, he's trying to enjoy some sense desire, and he wants to enjoy it with his senses, with his body, he wants to enjoy it grossly. But also at the same time, within the mind, you're always imagining, because material sense gratification, it's never as good as we hope it is, or as we expect it to be, or as we wish it to be. Therefore, within the mind, you're constructing such a big mental construction of, oh, I'm going to enjoy like this and to be so great and so wonderful. But then on the gross platform, you do it and it's wasn't really what I hoped it to be. And this is material life. And that imagination of sense gratification just increases your pain because it doesn't measure up to the material reality. But in devotional service also, you offer what you can with whatever opulence you can. And if you don't have much opulence or any opulence, then within your mind you offer, and there's no envy or disappointment there, because that's as real to Krishna as the so-called gross devotional service. Prabhupada said, whether mind or earth, water, fire, air, it's all material elements. It's all the same to Krishna. Bhakti paritam, what he's actually accepting is the devotion. what's the Bhumirapanalovayu Kamino Buddhira. Whether you're offering through earth, water, fire, air, ether, or whether you're offering with mind, intelligence, and yourself, it's the same if you're offering it with devotion. And for this Nrsingadanda Brahmachari, his meditation was so intense that the division between his imagination or his mental construction, the distinction between that and the external reality completely broke down so that one was reflected in the other. And therefore, because Mahaprabhu was not progressing path Kanai Natashala, also within his mind, he could not progress beyond in developing his road beyond Kanai Natashala. And of course, everyone knows the also very famous example of the hot sweet rice. Everyone knows this pastime.
Yeah.
The devotee within his mind was offering sweet rice to the Lord.
Sweet rice.
And so in his mind, he was cooking and stirring and using first-class, best, richest milk and sweetener and the first-class rice and making all within his mind. You could say imagining. We say in normal talk, imagining is when you're constructing something within your mind. And then he finished the rice and he set it to cool. And within his mind, he was going to offer it to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada says, everyone knows that sweet rice is best served cold. There's nothing like well-made, very refrigerated, very cold sweet rice. Somehow my wife likes warm sweet rice. Some people like warm sweet rice. But I'm with Srila Prabhupada on this, that ice-cold sweet rice is the best. So the devotee said, oh, let me test the temperature. So he dipped his mental finger into his mental pot of sweet rice. And when he mentally dipped his finger in, the sweet rice was still hot. And he felt, and pulled his finger out. He burned his finger. And then in his gross life, he looked at his finger and it was red and burned. So this is exceptional. We can't necessarily expect the same breakdown between gross and subtle reality. But on the other hand, to Krishna, they're both the same. And if we can't offer grossly, we offer within our mind. Or indeed, whenever we offer anything grossly, we must accompany it by an offering within the mind. Otherwise, we're just moving our limbs around. What's the point? If there's no mentally and emotionally, if there's no emotion involved. Just like if you make you could very easily conceive of a machine. Like we've all probably seen these YouTube videos of these very advanced robots, and they're moving and walking and dancing and climbing over stuff. Have you seen those YouTube videos of these very advanced robots? So to make a robot that will, with one arm will ring a bell, and one arm will hold a stick of incense and move it in circles. So that's gross. That's the same, grossly, that's the same as a pujari doing. But the difference of the pujari is that he has intention, he has desire, and he has love for Krishna. So not only is the mental as good as the gross, but the gross must be accompanied by the mental. Otherwise, it's just going through the motions. And the mental should also be accompanied by the gross. It's not that with our mind we meditate on serving Krishna, but on the gross level we're just serving ourselves. So we also have to, in a way, we have to merge these gross and subtle aspects. We can't do it like Nrsingananda Brahmachari, but that's the lesson here, and a very, very sweet, very nice pastime. Okay, any last questions or comments or discussion? Someone would like to share something before we wrap it up?
Prabhuji, also after Krishna's birth, Vasudev, he was present at that time, right?
Yes.
He donated decorated cows, hundreds and thousands of decorated cows within his mind. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly correct. And he was in a prison, so he had no facility, he had no wealth. But
Yeah.
within his mind, he was decorating the cows and decorating them and offering them mentally in charity to the brahmanas. So yeah, that's a wonderful example.
That's true.
That he had no facility, so within his mind he was doing amazing facility. And at the same time in Vrindavan, Nanda Maharaj, who did have the facility, was actually offering the decorated cows and gold and sesame seeds in charity. And Vasudeva in the prison was doing it mentally. So according to circumstances, all being arranged. Yeah, that's thanks for bringing that up. That's a wonderful example of Vasudeva and Devaki doing that. Very nice.
Thank you, Prabhu,
Anything else?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
so much for very, very, very wonderful. So from this past time, we can understand the mental state is more important. The Nishyananda Brahmachari was not imagine, basically he was offering in his mind, because physically he cannot do it, doesn't have an ability. So that, and the Lord accepted that as a real offering. Many times devotees, they feel bad, I cannot do it, I cannot offer like other devotees are doing. But at least in their mind, they're always thinking, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do this. So it looks like just by thinking itself is a devotional service, and the Lord is accepting. As you mentioned, it's not the physical manifestation of everything, it's what the one's mind. Because in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, as Lord Krishna says, whatever the state of mind one leaves the body, he attains that, not what he does at that time looks like. So it's a very inspiring verse. At least everyone can meditate in how we can serve Krishna, looks like Krishna and devotees, yes, even though we cannot do physically many times. That's
yes, very nice point. Yeah, ultimately the mental is actually, you're correct, more important. Because if we have the external but without the proper mentality, then we're not very well situated. But if we have the proper mentality, even if we can't fulfill on the gross level, then we're much better situated. But as far as possible, we try to do both, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, very nicely put. Thank you. Anything
Krishna
else?
is Paramatma. He knows everything, Prabhu.
I'm sorry?
Krishna is Paramatma. He knows everything.
Yes. Yeah, Prabhupada in the purport, he uses that expression, Bhava Grahi Janardana, which he also would quote in other places. Bhava Grahi literally means that Krishna's Janardan, he accepts the mood, he accepts the bhava.
Yeah.
If I offer some sweet rice to Krishna with love and devotion, sweet rice Krishna can get anywhere.
Yeah.
And he could get anywhere, he could get much better sweet rice than I can make.
That's true.
But the one thing that Krishna cannot get anywhere else except from me is my devotion.
Devotion, love.
He could get devotion from other devotees that are infinitely 1,000,000 times greater than my devotion. But if Krishna was interested in getting devotion from Ācārya Dāsa, I'm not sure why he would be, but let's say he were, then the only place he could get that is from me. Therefore, he accepts that. Because that's a unique offering that I can make. That's the only unique offering I can make is devotion from me, and Krishna will accept that. Yes, David?
No matter whether we...
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead,
I'm
David.
sorry. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Your devotion to him is his gift to you. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Yeah,
no
it's a gift to me. I'm sorry, let me butt in once more. Prabhupada would give the example of like decorating your face in the mirror. That if you're looking in the mirror and you want to put on makeup, for example, You don't take the lipstick and smear it on your image in the mirror and put the mascara on your eyes in the mirror and put the blush on the cheeks in the mirror. Rather, you put it on your own face, and then the reflection is automatically decorated. So Prabhupada said, so same way, you don't try to, because we're the reflection of Krishna's energy. So we don't try to please ourselves or decorate ourselves separately. But if we decorate Krishna, if we serve Krishna, if we offer our devotion to Krishna, then we're automatically the recipient of all benefit without a separate endeavor.
That's a very nice thing, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And someone else had something to say?
No, I was about to say whether we are offering in gold bowl or silver bowl or pot, this mud pot. But the devotion is the main thing. That's all.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for your kind attention. I hope this was interesting. It was interesting to me, and I loved hearing everyone's comments. Thank you very much for attending, and we'll be back next week with His Grace Vishnu Gita Prabhu, who I think is returning from Gita Nagari. Jai. Vancha kalpatru yascha kripa sindhu patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavim. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you. I hope everyone has a wonderful
Thanks,
day.
Neelanjana. Thanks, Neelanjana Mataji.
Thank you.
Krishna, thank you.